are, I don't know if there's a word in English. In Serbian, we have a word for pretposlednje. How would you say that?
Penultimate.
What?
Penultimate.
Penultimate. So a penultimate talk for the event. Okay, Israel, hands down for Israel. Querysets.
Querysets can do that.
Querysets can do that.
Yeah, but you have to say it with Homer Simpson voice.
Querysets can do that.
Dope.
Ah, okay. Dope.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so the conference is almost over. How are you guys feeling? Are you guys tired? Hopefully no one will fall asleep. Well, before starting and before even introducing myself, I would like for all the guys here, just give a big round of applause to the organizers. I think they've done a great job in this first event, and I hope, well, I know for a fact that running a conference is super tiring, so I hope this first time didn't drain all your will to do it next year. This is the first time I get to speak twice at an event, so it's quite an honor for me that these guys gave me 2 talks in the event. Are we okay with this? Oh, I know what happened. So yeah, my name is Israel. I work at Careem. I'm a tech lead at Careem. These are some facts about myself. I'm a Venezuelan. I've been living in Dubai for the last 4 years. That's my Twitter. Oh, that's my Twitter here. You can follow me if you want. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I will share my slides on Twitter after the, both of my slides on Twitter after the conference. So if you want to get the slides, you can follow me, or you can just catch me on the hall and ask me for the slides. That's my blog. I sometimes write something interesting for me, and I'm happy if that helps someone else. So yeah, what are we going to see in this talk? First, we need to understand what Querysets are. And I'm pretty sure everyone here who here uses Django. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with the concept of Querysets. Those who hasn't used Django, maybe it's a new terminology for them. Then just a review of all the known functions, then the not so known and not so used, and then mind-blowing moment. So yeah, for all of us to be on the same page, all the examples are going to be revolving around 3 models on the ride-hailing industry, because Careem is a ride-hailing company, although we're moving also into some other businesses. But on the ride-hailing model, we call our drivers captains. So we have a captain model, which is a driver model, basically, which will have a name, last name, city, and join date. I intentionally omitted the fields for the sake of simplicity. Then we will have a trip model. Trip has a captain, passenger, city, vehicle, and booking type. Pickup and drop-off, these are GPS points where the pickup happened and where the drop-off happened. Start time and end time. Trip starts when the passenger gets into the car and ends when the passenger gets off the car. Status, it can be booked, in progress, canceled, finished, or canceled and unpaid. A route, which is a collection of GPS points, a lot of geospatial data following all the route the captain took, and kilometers of that trip. And a vehicle, which is registered by a captain. It has a make, model, year, and specs, which could be, I don't know, a JSON blob or whatever. So what does a query return? Turns out that in Django, it could return multiple things, depending on what I use. These are the most known ones. Get, which will return a single instance of a model. all filter and exclude, all of them returns query sets, which behaves somehow like a list, but I can use negative indexes, but I can slice it with step, I can traverse it, I can turn it into an iterator and do some memorizations, but they're not a list, they're a query set. We'll see more about it in a bit. So, understanding query sets. The first thing we need to understand about query sets is that they are lazy. Just because I tell Django to go fetch some data, it doesn't mean that it will do it right away. Okay, so in this example, I'm fetching all the captains called Mohammed. In the Middle East, that's a quite common name, so it will potentially return a lot of records. But it won't evaluate the query set over there in line 1. It will do it when I traverse the query set on line 2. So it will fetch the data when the data is needed. Okay. Second thing, because query sets are lazy, query sets can be like Lego. It means that, for example, I can fetch all my captains. I can tell Django, hey, go get all my captains. Django will tell me, yeah, OK, I will do it. But then I figure out I have to filter by location. So, OK, Django, now this query set, can you filter it by location? Sure, I will do it. Then I find out that I need the vehicles that are related to this captain. So, OK, now can you please prefetch the related vehicles? If you're not familiar with this, I will explain it further on. And if you're not familiar with prefetch related, I will explain it further on as well. OK, Django tells me, OK, I will do it. Then when I traverse the query set, it's when Django will go and get me the data. And it will only get the data I asked for, okay? That's important to remember. So, in summary, when does Django evaluate the query set? Number 1, when I'm iterating it, for example, in a for loop. Number 2, when I'm slicing it with a step, if I use the list slice on an unevaluated query set, it will return another unevaluated query set until I have to get access to the data. But if I use the step argument on the slice, which tells Python to skip in this case, every 3 elements on that query set, it will evaluate the query set and return a list, not a query set. That's one gotcha there. When I'm catching and pickling, sometimes I find myself getting the same data from the database over and over again. I can just pickle that query set and cache it on Memcache or Redis or Varnish or whatever caching technology is trendy today. And whenever I need to fetch it again, I can just return the cache version. I need to remember to refresh the cache, so it adds some complexity to the code. So, but it's a possibility. And when I'm caching it, when I'm pickling it, it will be evaluated, and the data will be available for me. And in general, when I call any function that will get me access to the data, it will evaluate the query set. Now, the non-functions, the ones on my right return a query set. The ones on my left return something else. By the way, if someone, since this is the first time I'm giving this talk, I would like to know how useful it is. So if you happen to learn something, just say bingo, and I will get immediate feedback. So the ones on my left, the ones on my right return a query set, so I can chain them together, one after the other. I can filter by some criteria, then exclude some other criteria, then order, then maybe reverse it because I changed my mind, then annotate it. That's allowed because all of those methods return a query set, and these are query set methods. The other ones return something else. They could return a single model instance. They could return an integer. They could return a dictionary. They could return a Boolean. They could return something else. So if I try to call a Queryset method after that, it will give me an error because that's not a query set. So in summary, on your query set expressions, use these ones first and these ones last as a rule of thumb. So for example, if I'm getting a captain's first trip cancellation, actually that's a mistake. I'm getting the latest one. I can do it this way. Trip.objects.filter, just get me the captain, where the status is canceled, order them by booking time, but inversed. If I add a minus, it will do it on a descendant way, and get me the first one. So all of these ones return a query set. This one returns a single model instance. But I can also do it this way. The first trip cancellation, it's almost the same. Just filter the trips by captain, where the status is canceled, and get me the latest one by booking time. So latest will get a field, which is it has to be a time-based field for it to compute what's the latest one or the earliest one. The earliest method works in a similar way. Some notes on aggregate versus annotate. Who has used the aggregation and the annotation framework in Django? Yeah, a few people. So aggregate will compute the value for the whole set, and it will return a dictionary where the key is the function and the value is, well, the actual compute value. For example, if I want the average mileage in the city of Dubai, I can just filter by city name and aggregate the average in the kilometers field, and it will, by default, although I can change this if I provide a keywords argument, it will give me a dictionary with the name of the field, double underscore the function I used, and the value. Annotate, on the other hand, will perform the computation for each element in the result set. And it will add a custom field to the model. Then I can use that field to annotate on top of that field or to aggregate on top of that field. So the sky's the limit, basically. For example, if I want to know the number of trips and the average mileage for a captain in Dubai, I can just do the same, just filter by city name equals Dubai, prefetch the related trip set. If you remember, the trip had a foreign key to the captain. So by default, Django adds on the reference model a reverse relationship manager. And it calls it this way, the name of the other model underscore set. With a keyword argument, you can give it whatever name you want. Then annotate on average the trip underscore kilometers. This is the way to access fields on a reference model, and count the trips. And this will add a custom field. I can access just doing dot trip double underscore kilometers double underscore average, and doing the same for the other field. So the not so known, prefetch related and select related differ only using values and values list. So let's start with select related. We've seen it a couple of times already. So you may or may not know that if I tell Django to filter the trips and get the fares, for example, it will only get me the captain, because that's the only thing I asked for. If I try to access, sorry, it will get me only the trip because that's the only thing I asked for. If I ask for the captain name, it will hit the database. If I ask for the passenger phone, it will hit the database. If I ask for something else, it will hit the database again. To solve this, what happened? To solve this, I can use the select related method, and it will join all the tables together and get me all the data I need. So in this case, if I repeat this, it won't hit the database. The same applies for the reverse relationships. If I get, for instance, the first captain, and I want all his trips or all his vehicles, it will hit the database in both cases. For this, I can use the prefetch related method. It will this also works for many-to-many relationships. It will perform actually 2 or 3 queries. I don't remember, but it will do it in more than 1 query and join all the data in Python. So if I do captain vehicle set.all, it won't hit the database. But if I want to filter, for example, all the trips where the vehicle was a Tesla, it will hit the database because I'm changing the original query set. I can do this. I can solve this, for example, using the prefetch object. The prefetch object tells the prefetch related method to only focus the prefetch to get the prefetch results from a specific query set. For example, I can define a lookup query set with my vehicles filtered by make. I want only the Teslas. Then prefetch related the vehicle set, and then prefetch the trip set, but using this query set. This way, if I do captain.tripset.all, it will get me only the ones where a Tesla was used. But let's say I want also all the trips, not only the Tesla ones. I made the Tesla ones because, I don't know, I have a partnership with Tesla, and I want to provide them with some statistics. But I also want, I want both, basically. So I can do something like this. It's pretty much the same, but this time I'm prefetching the trip set and then prefetching again using lookup query set and dumping the results into another field called Tesla trips. So, and in this case, this Tesla trips field is not going to be a query set. It's going to be a list, but I will have my data loaded already, so I can use it without hitting the database again. So these ones are quite simple. Let's say you have huge models with a lot of fields, and you're not using all of those fields. Plus, maybe some of those fields are meant to be for internal usage, so you don't want to return them all the time because it doesn't make sense. Let's say in this case, what I'm basically saying is get me all the trips in Casablanca, but give me only the captain, the passenger, and the booking time. This is going to return. This is going to return a model only with these fields initialized. If I ask for another field, it will fetch it from the database. The same applies for defer. Defer works as opposed as only. It will return everything except for the field I give. In this case, root is a lot of geospatial data, so it's heavy to load into memory, so I'm returning all the trip fields except for this one. Values and values list. Values basically doesn't load the result set into models. It only returns a list of dictionaries with the fields I asked on the arguments. Values list does something similar, But what it does is it won't return a list of dictionaries. It will return a list of tuples where each element of each tuple are these fields in the same order. This is useful when you're, for example, producing a CSV from the database, and you can easily parse this into parse a list of tuples into a CSV, and you can also parse a JSON, a dictionary into a CSV, and the Dix can translate directly into JSON. So some things are a little bit more advanced, and I think these ones are quite overlooked by a lot of Django developers. And this one was a cool one I happened to discover recently, so this one is actually quite powerful. So let's start by query expressions. By default, Django adds all the filters I declare on the filter method. So if I filter by a set of attributes, it will translate it in a query that adds all of those filters. Query expressions are used to wrap query constraints. So for example, if I want all the captains in Doha, I can do it this way by all the captains except the ones in Doha. I can do it by excluding the city name Doha, but for the sake of using the Q expression, I can do it also this way. I can negate this query expression, city underscore double underscore name equals Doha, so it will just return all the captains not in Doha. I can also use it to return, for example, all the captains which are either in Lahore or Islamabad by adding an OR between the two query expressions. So F expressions are used to reference values within the same query set. The easiest way to understand what it does is with an example. Let's say, for example, I want all the trips where the captain is still in the same city. A captain can, for example, finish a trip in Dubai, then take another trip, and the guy wants to go to Abu Dhabi. Then, but this captain belongs to Dubai, so maybe he does a couple of rides in Abu Dhabi and then comes back to Dubai. So I want all the trips where the captain belongs to the same city. Again, it's just we know this part already, but here I want the city to be equals to the captain underscore double underscore city. I can do this without the F expression. Yeah, I can do this without the F expression as well. But this is pretty much what it does. It references a value within the query set. Now, conditional expressions. Conditional expressions are based on two objects. The when object, which is used to encapsulate conditions and the results to be used on conditional expressions, which are the case. Case expressions are like if, elif, else statements in Python, and the conditions and the results of those conditions are provided by when objects. And this looks pretty much like this. Let's say now I add a field called tier in my captains. They can be in 3 tiers: silver, gold, and Careem. And that's based on some metrics of those captains. It's based on their join date. So the oldest one are the highest ones, and the newer ones are the lowest ones. By using conditional expressions, I can do, for example, conditional updates. For example, this looks, is this readable back there? Yeah. For example, I can pre-compute some variables containing 6 months ago, 1 year, and 2 years ago by using the normal time math with Python. And then I'm going to update my captains, and I will set the tier of the captain when the join date is less than 6 months. They will be silver. When the join date is less than 1 year ago, they will be gold. And when the join date is less than 2 years ago, they will be Careem. So the usual way I've seen this done, people usually do it in three updates. You can easily do it in only one if you know about conditional expressions. Finally, one. Now, this is really powerful, and the final slide is going to be combining all of this together, but there are two more slides to go. I can also do conditional aggregation. For example, some people don't know that the count function can also get a filter. So in this case, I want to know how many captains I have in each tier. So I can do captain.objects.aggregate, silver equals count. It has to count something, so I just count the primary key. And you're going to filter where tire is equals to silver, and same for gold and Careem. And it will, what will this return? Anyone? Query set? Who says dictionary? Who says query set? It's an aggregation. It will return actually a dictionary. Yeah. Well, models, dictionaries. Yeah. Well, in the end, the model is a Python class, which is an abstraction on top of dictionaries. And conceptually, you're correct. I can also do a conditional annotation, and for this is the penultimate slide. Bingo, I learned that word today. Thank you. So I want to give the captains a bonus depending on the number of trips or the distance covered in their current city in the last 6 months. Anyone has some idea of how that will look like in SQL or with Django? Some idea? Conditional expressions, Fs, some other Fs while writing the query set. So it will look something like this. To explain it a little bit, here what I'm doing is I'm prefetching the trip set, then I'm filtering where the captain city is equals to the trip city. Then I'm adding another filter where the trips booking date is greater than or equals to 6 months ago, which I computed on a previous slide. Then I am annotating the number of trips for each captain and the sum of the trips kilometers for each captain. And up until here, what do I have? Query set, is it a single instance? Is it a dictionary? I still have query sets. Then I'm going to annotate the bonus, which will be equals to 5% when the trip count is less than or equals 600, or the the mileage, the total mileage of their trips is greater than 10,000, if my eyes are not cheating on me. Yeah, 10,000 kilometers, or when the trip count is greater than 600, and or the mileage is it should be greater than here. Just imagine it here. 190,000. I will give them 50%. I could have done a default here instead of another when, but for the sake of using what I'm explaining today, I just wanted to use when and Q expressions. It's blocked. So then what will this return up to here? Query set. Then I'm getting the values, and I want only the captain's ID, the captain's name, the trip count, the mileage, and the bonus for each captain. What does this query set return? A list? With tuples, or who says a list of dictionaries? Who says a list of tuples?
But now I'm confused. Now I'm confused. I thought it was with top.
No, it's values list will return a list of tuples. Values returns a dictionary. So this
Makes actually sense because of different data types and so on.
yeah. So that's pretty much all I have. When I was actually nervous because when I rehearsed this talk last night, it was 45 minutes. So I tried to go as fast as I could. So there was time for questions, which I'm not sure what does case when multiple. Okay, yeah. What does case do when multiple whens are true? It evaluates in order. So the last one, which is true, is the one which will be applied, because it will apply the first one. Let's say, for example, the first one is true. It will apply that one. The second one is true. It will apply that one. You can make not all of the whens true. For example, here, by limiting, giving an upper and lower bound, so you have all your buckets well defined. But I didn't have enough space on the slide, so I just did it the naive and dumb way.
Okay, we have a question for the audience here there.
So is there a risk of this query taking way too long or something like that? Instead
Yeah,
of
maybe.
Just fetching it and doing these computations in Python plain.
Yeah,
the
maybe.
database.
It will depend on your database structure. It will depend on your indices. But the scope of this talk is things you can do with query sets, not if they're optimal. Whether they're optimal or not, it's another story. But by knowing the whole thing or the whole takeaway from this talk, if you're not taking anything away, is that by knowing and going through the documentation at least once and knowing what's there and what's not, you can offload a lot of business logic to the database and just do some maybe manual aggregations in Python if there's no way to do it with the ORM.
Okay, if I've understood it correctly, you said that the last when statement that is true will be like taken, it's executed, okay?
Yeah.
So does that mean that we are the ones who should take care of the prioritizing of the when objects?
Yeah, in this case,
so if let's say we have 10 of them
yeah.
in a special case, so does that mean that we need to prioritize where to put
yeah.
each like of those whens so that
yeah.
we know that the outcome will always be the way we
yeah.
want them to be?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Damn.
Anybody else? Okay.
Oh, I missed this one. And
Okay.
this one is quite important because of this.
Okay.
So any more questions? We're hiring. If you have questions about that, we can take them.
In the hallway.
In the hallway.
Email, on Slack as well.
If you don't want to move to Dubai, we have offices in Berlin as well. In Berlin, Germany. Yeah.
Berlin. Okay, Israel. Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you so much for having me.